So, Boruto chapter 69 was very fun, weird, but also very informative. Like, we got some information about Eida and her abilities, and maybe her weakness, so we got some hint towards that as well. And we also got some information, a lot of information on Amado, and it kinda debunks a lot of theories that we had in the past. But we're gonna get into that later on in the video. And we have Sasuke talking about his quote-unquote resolve. Like, we're still doing this after what, 13 or 14 years? But we'll get into that later on in the video. So the chapter starts off showing us Eida in this mean girl pose. It's pretty cool. And then we move on to like Amado being surprised that it's Eida and being surprised that she's alive. Because what we know about Eida is that she was one of the cyborgs that were meant to be disposed of or dismantled by Boruto. So it would be a surprise to Amado that she's alive. Now, one thing we can take away from this interaction is that Amado doesn't know that Eida is alive, which kinda implies that he's not working with code, or this is not a part of his big master plan, because a lot of people had the theory that he was working with code, or this was a part of his grand master plan, you know. So this kind of implies that he's not in on the plan with code, which kind of proves that he's not the master planning dude that's controlling everything in the background, you know. So that kind of disproves that theory somewhat. But what I will say is that he could be trying to mislead the audience, because you know writers do that a lot, so that could be happening here. So I wouldn't say this is 100% something that we can use to disprove that theory. But I will say that evidence is leaning more towards him not being the mastermind behind everything, right? Because we even have the next panel with him being afraid of Eida. He's literally shaking, showing his feet shaking, right? And Shikamaru noticing that Amado is feeling terror, like it's beyond abnormal. So I think they're trying to point it out to the audience, and it could be that they're trying to deliberately like mislead us, because they're pointing it out like, look, Amado is afraid, so he can't be the mastermind, you know. So I'm getting that kind of feeling, but we don't know, we'll have to wait and see. We also have the next panel with Delta saying, Eida, I don't know who you are. If you are with them, I guess you're my enemy, so might as well. Then she attacked Eida. Now the interesting thing we can take away from this is that Delta doesn't know who Eida is, which means that Delta came into the organization after Eida was dealt with. So that might be the case. But for the fight itself, we see that Delta tried to kick Eida, but she couldn't. She physically couldn't land the hit, and then Eida just physically just moved her foot away from her face. So I was originally under the impression from the spoilers we got that Eida physically stopped the kick, but it appears that Delta was already under Eida's influence since she physically couldn't land the hit herself. So what this basically confirmed is that Eida's ability does work on Delta, even though she is somewhat of an android. And if this interaction was not enough to confirm that for you, even if you go later on into the chapter, we see Delta on the floor saying, oh my god, Delta is so cute and all that jazz, right? So I think that means that she's under the influence of Eida's ability. So it does work on cyborgs, humans, androids, or whatever, as long as they're not an Otsutsuki or family member. And I'm gonna get to that family member thing later on in the video, because that one is pretty important. Then we move on to like Sasuke and Boruto having this conversation on some sort of balcony, and Sasuke basically saying that stopping Momoshiki's rampage was my responsibility as a teacher, but I couldn't be there when you needed me. And Kawaki had to take on a painful role too. The village doesn't need to hate anyone else besides me. Now this is where I have like some sort of a problem, right? So we can gather two things from this conversation. Sasuke does agree with Kawaki's decision to kill Boruto. Like, he doesn't hold any like animosity towards Kawaki, which is good, because it would be kind of hypocritical for Sasuke to hold any ill will towards Kawaki for doing something he promised to do. So it does make sense. And of course we have Boruto kind of sharing the same sentiment, that I told Kawaki to do it, so I don't understand why the people of the village would hate Kawaki. So Boruto's on the same page as Sasuke. They don't have any ill will towards Kawaki. Now, the interesting thing will be how Kawaki reacts to seeing that Boruto is still alive, and that's what I'm gonna get to later on in the video. But yeah, back to Sasuke saying that the only person anyone in the village should hate is him, is that it's kind of like redundant at this point. I don't know why they're still continuing this storyline for Sasuke, this redemption arc. I believe this dude has redeemed himself. I'm sure everyone who watches the series or reads the manga believes that Sasuke has redeemed himself, and even throughout the entirety of Boruto, we've never seen anyone show any ill will towards Sasuke. He's only received respect, adoration from people. Like, I don't get it. Like, the only time we saw this was in like the recent chapters, in like chapter 61 or chapter 60, when an unnamed Jonin was like, Uchiha, what are you doing? Uchiha, stop doing this. Like, they were showing some level of disrespect towards Sasuke, but then you had the other Jonin like showing complete adoration. So throughout the entire series, you only saw one character, this unnamed Jonin, show some level of disrespect towards Sasuke, and he's still on this redemption arc. Like, at this point, bro, like the only way this dude can redeem himself if they're still continuing this arc is for him to like sacrifice himself for the village in front of the entire village or some shit like that, bro. Like, I don't get it at this point. What does he need to do to gain like whatever they're trying to give him? Because like, this dude is walking about in the village just having a regular life. No one is showing him any bad eye. We saw the episode with Sarda, right? Like, I don't get it. Like, it just seems random to me and it doesn't seem necessary. But I feel as if they're using this because like they don't have any use for Sasuke in the story. Like, the only use they have for him is like for Boruto's situation, to like train him on some shit like that. But they're not doing that, right? So they're trying to give him some purpose. And the one thing they can latch on to is this redemption arc that should have been over a long time ago, right? So it's kind of weird and they need to move on. This conversation then led into Sasuke telling Boruto that he can keep his headband as a gift. And this kind of sets up something for the future, which of course is Boruto getting that slash on his right eye. And we know Boruto gets the slash when he has the headband, because the headband itself is also slashed, right? So I think this kind of leads into that, maybe, but that's only if we assume it happens pre-time skip. And the reason why I think it will is because they also set up Sasuke's death in this chapter as well, because we have Boruto talking about Kawaki, right? And saying that Kawaki understood his resolve, which was to die if needs be. Then Sasuke says, I might be the one having to show his resolve next. Now this is pretty intriguing. I mean, at this point I can't even take credit for the theory because it's kinda obvious that Sasuke is going to die. You know, Boruto is wearing his gear in the post time skip timeline and we see him giving Boruto his gear right now, and he's talking about his resolve to die if needs be, saying that he can die for the village. That was in the Ishiki arc, right? So I think they're kinda setting up Sasuke to like die in the upcoming chapters. And what I will say to that is that I welcome it. It's fine if it's done right, and that's the problem with the manga, right? They don't typically handle death scenes right. You know, we remember that atrocious like Kurama goodbye scene. So hopefully they do something good for Sasuke if he does die. And if they're not gonna do it right, just don't do it. Kill somebody else, pack up Shikamaru, do something else, you know. But yeah, if they do it right, it should be fine. Then we had like Mitsuki and Sarada talking about their resolve to get stronger so they can take care of Boruto or support him in these battles. We have Mitsuki saying that we need to get stronger in order to face Otsutsuki level threats, and Sarada saying that, yeah, obviously I need to be stronger in order to become Hokage. Now, I think this might lead into something interesting for the characters. It may not, because this has happened before and nothing came of it. So I'm really interested to see where they take these characters or what kind of power-ups they receive. I'm more interested in Sarada, to be honest, because like Mitsuki has Sage Mode, this advanced Sage Mode that he barely uses, and it's really OP, right? And they can expound on that, power it up more, make him stronger. Now the more interesting one is Sarada, because we don't know what she'll get to put her on the Otsutsuki level tier. You know, I want to see where they take this to see how it makes sense. And of course, he had the scene of Mitsuki asking Sarada if she liked Boruto. She denied it and didn't confirm it or some shit like that. Like, okay, that's like meh, you know, fine, okay, cool. I'm sorry, Sarada x Kawaki shippers, it's just not gonna happen. It's basically confirmed at this point, so yeah, that's that. Then we had Kawaki waking up telling Naruto, or asking Naruto if he's not gonna condemn him for killing Boruto. Naruto said like, Boruto is alive. Kawaki looked shocked. Naruto explained that the karma revived Boruto, and Kawaki's like, okay, cool, he doesn't really care. And then Naruto explained to Kawaki that he understood why he did it, because he needed to protect them, and if it hadn't been for Kawaki, they would have all died to Momoshiki and Code. So he's grateful for what Kawaki did, and he understands, and Boruto also understands, and he still thinks of Kawaki as a part of his family, just like everyone else in Konoha, which I honestly don't have a problem with, because I understand why Kawaki did it. I think we can all rationalize and understand why Kawaki did what he did, and I think the most egregious thing is how he did it, and his mannerisms when he was conducting the act, and how he's talking to Naruto right now. I think that's the more interesting thing to focus on. I think Naruto understands Kawaki's personality perspective, and he's siding with Boruto on the issue, so he's not gonna like punish Kawaki for what he did. But then Naruto had to leave because Ino called Naruto to the battlefield where Eida is, and she called Sasuke as well, and Sasuke also brought Boruto along with him. And while Naruto was leaving, we saw Kawaki turn over his left hand, which showed the karma seal, and then we saw Ishiki's dojutsu in his left eye. Now this is really interesting to me because it appears that Kawaki is now able to use Ishiki's dojutsu without activating karma, so this might mean that Boruto is also now able to use Momoshiki's Byakugan without activating karma, without going into the Borishiki stage, you get me? So this is an interesting development to say the least. And another thing to point out is that Kawaki seems kinda angry, and I pointed this out in my spoiler review that it'll be kinda interesting to see how Kawaki reacts to Boruto being alive. Like, is he going to want to finish the job or kill Boruto? Because again, the threat of Momoshiki coming out again and trying to kill someone is still there, even though Boruto said that he can control his power. So Kawaki might be going off of, okay, I can't trust you to do that, so I'm just gonna kill you, you know, which is kinda not reasonable, I would say, because again, like, that was the same thing for him and they gave him leeway, so it's kinda weird and kinda hypocritical, right? So I want to see how it plays out and see where they take it. Hopefully they don't butcher Kawaki's character in the process. Now we're back on the battlefield where Shikamaru is using shadow paralysis on Eida, which actually worked, and we had this interesting commentary from Eida. She said, "Oh, no way, you can actually attack me. I see. It's cause the jutsu doesn't directly inflict harm." And what this basically confirms is that if you can use an ability that doesn't do physical harm to Eida, then it would technically work. So let's say Naruto uses a sealing jutsu on Eida, it would technically work. Let's say Sasuke uses genjutsu, it should technically work, even though genjutsu is kind of a gray area because it's sort of a physical attack in some way because you're shooting chakra into the person's optic nerve and affecting the optic nerve itself, right? So you're not affecting the person on the outside, right? But what you're doing is technically affecting the person's physical being on the inside. So I don't know if that counts because the rules in Naruto, they're kind of wonky and they can be bent to like fit the writer's needs, so we'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, sealing jutsu, maybe genjutsu, maybe those can work, but we'll have to wait and see. We then had Amado explaining Eida's ability, saying that she enchants us on an instinctual, unconscious level, no matter your gender, which explains what happened to Delta. He then says, "You, Delta, me, no one can escape this ability of hers." He then noted that the symptoms would be headache, vertigo, fever, impaired judgment, stiffened muscle from extreme tension, and that different people get different symptoms. Some simple types like Delta just become infatuated. Now, there are two things we can take away from this conversation. There are different ways in which people can get affected by the ability, which explains why Delta has a different reaction than Code. Now, Delta's reaction seems extreme compared to Code. Now, what I'd like to know is that if Eida is able to control which symptoms you experience from the ability, and that would be pretty cool in my opinion. Another thing you can take away from this is that Amado claims that he's also affected. So the theory about him being Eida's father couldn't be the case because she explained that if you're a blood relative or an Otsutsuki, then you wouldn't be affected. So if Amado was her biological father, he wouldn't have been affected. But then again, as I said earlier, this could be an act by Amado. So I don't know, it could go either way. Nothing has been truly debunked 100%. But you can see that they're trying to lean in the idea that he's not this mastermind, you know, that he's just a regular guy that got mixed up in some shit. So I don't know, it's gonna play out that way or not, we just have to wait and see. We then had Code attacking Amado with his fingers, like stabbing him in the chest to affect his nervous system or some shit like that, but it didn't really amount to anything because Amado didn't spill, because Shikamaru was able to connect with Amado using Ino's ability. So I think that's a cool use of the ability in the Boruto series. Then we have Shikamaru asking Eida what beef does she have with the village, you know, why is she helping Code? And Eida just says that she likes Kawaki and she's just helping Code to get his limiters removed so that he can help her get Kawaki, which is kind of weird. It's a weird plan if you think about it, but Shikamaru then goes into like his little thinking mode and says, okay, cool, since you like Kawaki, just come over to our side and then you can confess your feelings to Kawaki. You can talk to him all you want and tell him what you want, you know? So he offers that to Eida, which kind of surprises Eida, but it definitely surprised Code. So Code is like, what? So like, I want to see how this plays out because it would be kind of cheap if she does sell out Code to just go talk to Kawaki, because I truly believe that what Eida is planning with Kawaki is not just to fall in love. I don't believe that her true motive is just because she likes Kawaki. I don't believe that's the case. So will she take the offer maybe just to get closer to Kawaki? Or will she just laugh it off and say, bro, I have the upper hand, I don't need your handouts, you know, I'm just gonna do what I need to do, you know? So I want to see how that plays out. Another thing to note here is that when Eida says she liked Kawaki, Amado had this internal dialogue where he says Eida likes Kawaki. So it's like he's confused, he doesn't know what's going on. So this kinda again lends to the idea that he's not this mastermind behind everything, you know, that kinda dispels that theory. But all in all, I think it was a great chapter. It had everything I wanted. You know, as I said in the spoiler video, I wanted something with more exposition, give us some information on Eida, which we got, give us some more information on Amado, which we got indirectly, and just give us some more information on the other characters as well and the storyline itself. So I think it was good. The Mitsuki and Sarada conversation was kinda too long, you know, it didn't need to be that long, but yeah, it was a really good chapter, so hats off to the writers for doing a good job this time. All in all, these are just my thoughts on the chapter. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think that Sasuke is going to die in the next couple of chapters before the time skip? Do you think this is the weakness for Eida, maybe getting jutsu or whatever? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you like the video, drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell to be notified when I post new content. But above all else, have a great day. Peace out.